So, hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the Screen Actors Guild Foundation.
Thanks, honey.
And congratulations on your success on 24. This
Thank you. It was a gift. Thank you. It was a gift.
Was it a gift? Did you have to audition or did they just
No.
call you? They just called?
No.
Fabulous. And it's your first hour show as a series regular.
Yeah.
And how was that? Did you love it?
Yes, it was fantastic. I mean, I always loved that format. I love the one-camera format, but I never wanted to do something where I was going to...
The lighting shifted.
I never wanted to do a show where I wasn't going to see my child in the morning or say goodnight to him, you know, at dinner, after dinner. So, but this was great because it's such a huge ensemble.
Now you've actually, because I know you're very, you're a family woman, and you've actually made a lot of choices, and you've turned down a lot of work in order to be at home and be a good mom. Do you regret it? Was he worth it? All that time and energy?
Sometimes.
He's a teenager now.
No, he's completely worth it. There was really only one. I won't say it was a job. It was an opportunity that I regret, and because it was a childhood fantasy that being sort of offered to me on a silver platter, and it was a musical in New York that probably the only one. First of all, that I'm still young enough to even do. There's only a couple roles left in Broadway musicals. That one I think about sometimes. Yeah.
Now you grew up in Seattle, and when did you start acting?
Well, you know, I started taking. I didn't take drama in high school until my senior year, so I didn't really think about it until my last year.
Did they have drama before your senior year? My high school didn't even offer it till you got to be a senior.
Really?
Really? It wasn't even available. Only seniors could take it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, they
Seattle's
did.
very progressive.
They did. They did. Grunge, drama, coffee. Yeah, no. We had a particularly wonderful drama teacher. He treated us like actors, you know. I was a cheerleader too, which he just found appalling beyond, you know. It was just like, oh. But, so I decided then and there that I was going to major in theater. And I knew that the University of Washington in Seattle had a particularly good acting program. So I announced to my parents that I was going to major in theater, and my mother had heart failure. And only because she thought that I was being very impractical. You know, and even though she had done plays in college and all that, you know. But I think she felt that I would be sort of wasting a college education, you know. But
What did your father, the professor, think?
my father, the high school teacher, my daddy, he told her to calm down. And then she immediately, I mean, I think after the first time she saw me, she'd seen me in a couple of plays in high school, but the first time she saw me in a play in college, then she became my biggest supporter. Yeah.
And so what happened? How did you sort of begin to work professionally?
Well, thank God, because I was living in a city, Seattle, which has a lot of professional theater. I got a lot of work as soon as I got out of school. Actually,
Seattle rep?
Well, no, actually, my first job that got me my equity card was playing Mrs. Cratchit in A Christmas Carol at a theater in Seattle, ACT in Seattle, and Mrs. Catshit, I believe is what we all had horrible names for each other in the cast, and that was mine. And then I got hired at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Ashland. And I did summers. I never did a winter season there. I just did summers. So I did summers in Ashland, and then I'd come back to Seattle and work at the Seattle Rep. Or at the
Now this is while you were still in college, or you're out?
No, I was as soon as I got out of college.
soon as you
I actually
got
got married the night I graduated from college.
Wow.
Yeah, and became a Marine Corps wife briefly. And not because of anything like that, but it's just one of those things. But then I got hired at Ashland, and which was an amazing experience. Amazing experience.
Now, did
I
you
did 3
ever
summers there.
do the traveling around the country doing regional theater, or did you go right to New York?
Well, I moved to New York. Well, after 3 summers at Ashland, and I'd go back to Seattle in between summers and work at the Intiman or work at the Rep. And then I I actually did. I did a play. I did Terra Nova at the Alaska Rep.
Do you all know that play, Terra Nova? It's
Fabulous
such a
play.
Fabulous play. Oh.
We had a little running rivalry with the production in LA, which was opening the same weekend, I think. They said that they were the West Coast premiere because they were 2 hours ahead of us. And I think we said we were the West Coast premiere because we were further west. And then, of course, they would send us nasty notes about, well, what are you doing for a set? Just opening the back wall of the theater. Because we were in Anchorage, and it was set in the
Didn't you
pole.
do that? Didn't you do the play again with Brian Kerwin?
No, that's Strange Snow.
Oh, Strange Snow. That's right. Sorry. Never mind. Continue.
No, but I moved to New York. I finally decided it was time to move to New York, and then I did a few regional theaters. But I thought if I'm coming to New York, I'm not coming to New York to do theaters in, all over the country. If I'm coming to New York, I want to do. So I did do some. Went to Atlanta, did a play. I went to Hartford. I did a season at Hartford Stage. I did The Scottish Queen in Pittsburgh at the old Carnegie Hall, Pittsburgh Public Theater,
And you've never really stopped doing theater, even when you're busy schedule.
No,
You've always done a
I
play
try
here
to
and
do it.
there.
I'll try to.
Yeah.
Try to.
I like the story. You should tell them about the story about with Maria in New York.
Which one? Which one?
Jean got a play in New York. The off-Broadway play, and you brought your son, and she actually was paying her housekeeper more to take care of her son than she was actually
I told my
earning.
housekeeper one day that she was actually making more than I was being paid at Playwrights Horizon. She went, "Oh no, Mrs. G." I said, "Yes, yes." But yeah, that's true. Oh, also too, she had heard nothing, of course, from all her friends. She had heard nothing but, well, oh, you're going to New York City? Pfft, well, it was nice knowing you. You're going to be raped. You're going to be murdered. We'll never see you again. So when we first got there, she was terrified. And of course, once she, made some friends and discovered the Paramus Mall in New Jersey and discovered the subway, and I took her to a Broadway musical. I never saw her again. It was so she had a great time.
So was your first big break in New York that little play called Last Summer at Bluefish Cove?
Yes. Yes,
So what happened?
Well, I got to New York and I was staying at a friend's apartment and I started looking at the little trades and looking for auditions, deciding what I should, and I saw an audition for a play that had a lot of women's parts, and it was a play about gay women, and it was written by Jane Chambers, and it was called A Late Snow, different than A Strange Snow. No,
A Late Snow.
A Late Snow.
Yes.
And I thought, well, it sounds like it has good parts, and also I thought I can find that address, so I'll go to that one. That was basically my criteria for auditions at that first couple of weeks that I was in New York. So
Somebody's relating
and it was
profoundly over here.
and it was taking place in an apartment, a woman's apartment. So I went there and.
Did you play Ellie?
I think so. No, I didn't do it. I went in and I auditioned.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
And again, I say this in jest with warm feelings, but it was interesting being, right off the bus, not literally off the bus, but sort of off the bus from Seattle. It's like, ooh, we're not in Kansas anymore. I walked in and there was this very sweet gal sitting there who had on a leather hat that came down to here, and all I could see was this hot pink fringe of hair and a nose ring. I went, oh, hi. I'm here to read for lesbian number 4. So anyway, I got the lead. And we started rehearsing. And of course, she was actually a wonderful woman named Harriet Leiter, who unfortunately has passed away. She was quite a character. She had decided that it would be fun to direct a play about lesbians, never realizing that maybe you had to get the rights first or talk to the, So she apparently there was something in the trades, and she got a phone call from the playwrights manager. Said, "Excuse me, who are you, and why are you doing my client's play?" And she said, "You cannot do that play. It's been done."
Was that Beth?
She doesn't want it. Yeah, she doesn't want it done again. But she has this other play that's been literally sitting in a drawer for several years. She's never even heard it read out loud. It's called Last Summer at Bluefish Cove. If you want to do that one, you can do that one. So, and it turned out to be one of the best roles I've ever played. And it got me my agent, it got me a Broadway play, and we did it for a year. And then when I finally moved to LA, did it again with this brilliant woman right here in the cast.
We did this play for 22, well, no, you did it for 14, I did it for 22 months. It's how my career started. And there were 8 of us in the dressing room the size of these 2 chairs.
Yeah.
8 women and only 6 seats. 2 women, we don't know how they got chosen. 2 women never had seats.
Right.
They stood behind us.
And the play was considered a little bit risque back then, but now it's like
Gene and I actually saw it a couple of years ago, and now it's like a Hallmark card. But back then it was cutting edge. It was right on the.
Well, I remember. I mean, my parents didn't come out to New York. They didn't see. I mean, they didn't see that one. I wasn't sure if I wanted them to see that one. I kissed a girl. Oh my God! And so, but then when I did it in LA, a little closer to home, they living in Seattle, I decided to invite them to come down and see it.
And actually, I don't know if you remember this. The night her parents saw it was the night my parents saw it.
That's right.
So the 2 moms were sitting next to each other, and I would look out, because I'm off stage enough, my character, and I'm looking out, I'm reporting to Gene, and our moms are going, oh. And our dad, yes they were, and our dads on either side were like this. And we would always forget whether to tell people that it was a play about 8 lesbians or it was a play about cancer, because it was both. And I would remind you, I go, now this is a play about lesbians, and then I'd have some shell-shocked friend sitting there. I go, oh, her mother just died of cancer. I forgot to tell her the cancer part. It'd be like that sort of. We did
No, but I mean, I knew my mother would love it, because my mother's very well read, and I knew that she would love it.
She did.
But my dad, I wasn't so sure, because to see his, he thinks I'm 4 years old, and so, I was kissing another woman. I was like, I said, Daddy, you don't have to go out. You won't hurt my feelings. You can go out with Uncle Paul tonight. Just go do something else. He said, no, I'll come. And he could not stop talking about it. And I know when he was pretending to be nice.
Yes.
He thought it was fabulous.
And you did, I think, that's when you did like 3 different series while we were doing that show. That's when you did For Teachers Only, right? That one. And
that was the first one. That's what brought me out to New York.
Yeah.
I mean, to LA. Was a very short-lived series with Norman Fell and Lynn Redgrave called Teachers Only.
Now, what do you think, when you got Designing Women, what do you think was the magic? You know how hard it is. We've all tried so many different series, and we see so many wonderful series get on the air, and they're not given a chance or what have you. What was the thing that made Designing Women be the right thing at the right time? What gave it its wings?
I don't know. All I know is that when I said yes, I would do it, I cried for 2 weeks. I thought I'd, ruined my life. And
why?
Oh, because I had done already 3 or 4 or 5 series, and I just thought I shouldn't be doing another sitcom. I should be doing something a little more substantial or something. All my agents talked me into it, and I'm glad they did. But no, of course, I always do that. Commit to something more than marriage. It's like, I think I've ruined my life. But
and that was a very demanding job.
What?
Designing Women.
What do you mean?
Well, I remember during the time, because you guys would just get tons of line changes right before you'd shoot.
Oh, in that sense.
Yeah.
And that's still though. I mean, a sitcom is the easiest schedule
Well, of
in the
course,
world.
but I mean that was a very wordy. Sitcoms don't
Well, it was
have that
true.
many
I mean,
words
well,
anymore.
yeah, but we all loved that. We were all like word processors. She was lucky because, I mean, she'd say, right before the audience came in, she'd say, okay, take this paragraph and put it down there and change this paragraph and put this and add this page here. And then every time you say Betty Sue Simmons, I now want you to say Nancy
Keegan.
Nancy Willie something or other. I was like, I mean, we worked on an Elvis number one time and then found out the Elvis estate wouldn't okay it 15 minutes before the show. We worked up another Elvis song, stuff like that. But that was actually kind of fun. I couldn't do it now. The brain cells are gone. But but back then, we would spit that stuff out. She would write 72-page scripts. Most sitcoms are, 45 pages? I'm ignoring this side of the room. Terribly sorry. It's because she's over there. But Yeah, no, Linda Bloodworth Thomas has never, I don't think she's ever gotten the credit for what she did on that show. She wrote almost the first 3 years virtually by herself, in longhand on a legal pad. And she would write 70, 80-page scripts. And then we'd eventually have to cut them down to 50-something. And they would actually sometimes have to resort to actually speeding us up just a tiny bit. If you see some of the episodes, our voices are just a little bit higher. You think, helium? No, it's not that. No. Or every once in a while you'd see one of us do this. You know, we'd cross our legs just a little too, you know. It's weird.
Literally? They
Oh,
did
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. They were desperate to get it down to, you know, and back then you had what, 22 minutes? Now you have what? You're lucky on a sitcom if you have 20 minutes.
Is that right?
It used to be 23, then it went down to about 22, 21 and a half, and now it's closer to 20 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes of commercial.
And did Harry direct all of them? Harry?
Oh, no.
No, he didn't. Who was your director?
The first season, I can't remember his name. And then
Different
David
director?
Traynor did a lot of them.
David.
Harry started doing a few, I think season 4. And then Delta and I left after season 5, and then they did 2 more years after that.
And you guys, I mean, despite what you read in the rags, of course, they all actually really liked each other. I mean, you guys
yeah.
got along great.
Yeah. I
it
mean,
was
Dixie and Delta
family.
had a little feud for a while, but that was okay. They're back together.
And you had a baby while you were doing the
did.
show. And they actually wrote that in.
Well, you didn't have much choice. It was sort of like, what was weird was I found out I was pregnant the night my character got married. That's what was so amazing, because especially since I was playing the nice Baptist girl, I thought, well, we better marry, you know, thank God she's married, but I remember sitting in my dressing room in this wedding gown that was so tight I could barely sit and smoking a cigarette. And I looked in the mirror and I knew, I'd been thinking about it for a few days, and I said, you are pregnant. I put that cigarette out. That was the last cigarette I had. And my husband, coincidentally, my husband was Richard Gilliland. He was across town doing another sitcom. And he was on the phone with the doctor because we had done a test. Well, what is it? And the doctor said, well, you nailed her. That's a quote. That's a quote. Unbelievably, I still go to this man. But what was so funny was that the plot of my husband's sitcom that very night that he was shooting was that he was playing a character who'd been married, 20 years, and he had 3 kids who were practically grown, and his wife announces she's pregnant.
Oh.
And he's going, how did this happen? Oh my God, which is exactly what he did to me. Like the next day, how did this happen?
You were there. Now, do we have any devoted 24 watchers here? Yeah. So Jean,
Yes!
Jean's real-life husband, Richard Gilliland, played one of the 2 pilots, the pilot who gets killed.
The good pilot or the bad pilot?
The good pilot. He was the good pilot, yes.
He actually got stabbed to death, and they went back and reshot it and just knocked him silly.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, they thought, how'd they get the knife on board? And then, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So now, you kind of left designing women at the height of the show. Or what many people would have called the height of the show. Was that something
Really? Shoot.
Oh. Was that something your agents were in favor of or opposed to?
Well, I think they were very nice, I must say. They were great at William Morris. They were great about it, considering they were losing a lot of money. It was the end of my contract. I had actually thought about leaving after season 4, only because, you become an actor because you don't want to do the same thing every day. You become an actor because you don't want a nice, cushy 9-to-5 job. And here I had this really nice, cushy 9-to-5 job. And I think that I felt, at least, a little bit like I was starting to sort of make faces for a living, kind of. That was sort of how I felt. And it had nothing to do with the show or the quality of the writing at all. It was just how I felt. But I thought, no, I signed a 5-year contract. I'm going to, do the 5 years. And so I chose to leave. after the 5th year, just because my contract was up and I wanted to do other things. And I guess too, there was a part of me, and it was, I guess, a reverse snobbery or something. I don't know the way I was brought up, but I was getting used to the money, and that concerned me a little bit. I was still young and stupid enough that worried me.
I was just her friend, and I was getting used to the money. It was fabulous.
But no, truly, and I don't mean to sound, I don't know what. I just thought, I don't want to make, until I have to, obviously, I don't want to make decisions about my career based on money if I don't have to, And it was just time to move on. The contract was up. But everybody else had signed on for an extra 2 years a couple years earlier, and I had declined to do so. Partly because I was pregnant at the time, and I thought, my life's about to change dramatically. I don't want to make, that kind of a commitment not knowing how I'm going to feel about it,
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then you did some fabulous, wonderful, really big, chunky movie of the week type roles, and you started getting some very great, good supporting roles in films. And how were you feeling during that period of time?
Sounds fabulous.
It looked good to me.
I'm trying to remember. Yes, no. I've been extremely fortunate, and for some reason, thank God, I never got typecast. Although that's not necessarily a good thing, as I've said.
What does that mean?
I think that in this town, because there's so many actors and there's not a lot of work and there's just never seems to be any time, I think that it's hard for casting directors, unless you're Meryl Streep, of course, then they'll sort of try to figure out, let's see if she can do this, let's see if she can do that. But for the most part, if you're, they don't really have the time nor the inclination to think, oh, gee, let's give her this challenging part. No, they're not your acting teacher, So they want to be able to have you in this Rolodex or this Rolodex or this Rolodex. And if you are what I always thought you were supposed to be when you were an actor, which is versatile, certainly coming from the theater, that's what I thought you were supposed to do, and I still think it. But if they can't, it just makes it harder to employ you, I think, sometimes, unless you have people who just really are fans, and obviously you get a producer or a writer or a casting director who just really is into you, and they'll help you and look for things sometimes for you. But for the most part, I think it's if they can pigeonhole you, obviously it's going to be easier to cast you, And I just was never that kind of. I'm always sort of, for better or worse, sort of gone between character actress and leading lady, and it's like I'm not Michelle Pfeiffer, but then it's like, well, she's a little too pretty to play the best friend. The best friend has to be shorter, darker, and 5 pounds heavier, and smokes. You know how the best friend of the lead is always not quite as pretty as the lead, and she's a little bit shorter and chunkier, and has a bad love life, and wears too much jewelry, and always smokes. And that just, unfortunately, I didn't fit into that. So it was like, well, yeah, but she's too big to be the lead. I don't know. She's kind of funny, but that's not good either. So I don't know. Next, so. But I'm not complaining. No, I've gotten to do so many wonderful parts and incredibly varied roles, and I've always worked, and God knows, that's in this business, that's amazing.
Did you consider yourself, have you considered yourself successful by your standards?
By my standards, no.
No.
By any normal standards, yeah, absolutely. I've won the lottery.
Mm-hmm. What would you like to do that you haven't done yet?
Well, I would like to do some. I would like a tenth of Meryl Streep's career. I'll take 1% of her career.
Oh, come on! She has 75% of Meryl's career. Come on, you're fabulous.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Well, your repertoire, the things you've done.
Oh,
the
that's right.
television-
Like Sophie's Choice. I was fabulous in that, by the way. That was me. It wasn't her. That was a little snafu in the publicity department. Do you know that I haven't seen that movie? I never go to. I'm horrible. I'd have to go back that far to catch up.
Really?
I read the book though.
You'll enjoy the Ten Commandments.
I read the
with,
book.
Moses. They're good. They're good.
Parent Trap is excellent.
Parent
if
Trap
you can
is-
see that.
With Haley Mills. See the Haley Mills.
Yes, the Haley Mills, of
version,
course.
yes. Now you've never had any aspirations to direct. I know you've done some writing. You're a good writer, but you've never
I'm
really
not.
wanted. Well, I think you are.
No.
But you've never really wanted to go other ways. You've sort of just
I beg your pardon.
wanted to stick with the acting route as opposed to the.
Otherwise,
Is there something I should find out about?
no.
I mean, in terms of.
You know what? I wrote a screenplay one time.
I know you did.
It was the most fun thing I've ever done.
I know.
And when it was over, didn't know what to do with myself, and I've never really had the guts to show it to anybody. And now I'm too old to play the part, so I'm not going to show it to anybody. So I went back and read it about a year later. It's not good. No.
Really?
But what was interesting was, so I would like to try it again sometime, maybe with a partner. What I found interesting was after I wrote it, because I wrote it in a flurry, an absolute flurry, nonstop, day and night, day and night, day and night. I was single at the time. When I then later started reading some books on screenwriting, they give you sort of these basic formulas. If you're going to introduce the love story, it's approximately this page number, and the denouement is approximately this page number, and all that kind of thing. It was to the letter. The structure was absolutely like formula.
Wow.
But the dialogue was it was like way overdone. I mean, it was, yeah. I was horrified that my dialogue was so bad.
So I'm going to just move on now. If that's okay.
Please do.
So now you've won 2 Emmys. One, and you got nominated the same year for an Emmy for both guest actress in a drama and in a comedy, correct?
Uh-huh.
And you won the comedy for Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the second one for?
Frasier.
Both for Frasier? You won 2 for Frasier? Oh. Now, what was that like? Was that enjoyable? Because I know you'd been the lead in these series, and suddenly you came into an established series.
Oh, sure. No, I mean, I had so much fun on Frasier. It was such a great character. I mean, winning an Emmy once, let alone twice, was just. I actually think the second was just a mistake. They thought they were thinking of like it was like, yeah, she was. Oh, it was this year? She already won. Oh, well, it's okay. Give her another one. But no, that was a treat. I mean, it was great. I had so much fun on that show. What a great character. What a fun character. You know? So.
And you've done a few pilots since that went. You've had a few series that a number of episodes were done, and none of them have had the success of Designing Women, which do you think, because just tell me if you agree with this, I feel that a lot of shows are not given the opportunities they were 10 or 15 or 20 years ago.
No, they're not. They're not.
You know,
They're
and
not.
you've done some stuff that I thought there were shows you've done that have been absolutely delightful, and they never got a chance.
The two that I think of that were so much fun one was with Mary McDonnell called not Filthy Rich. That was Linda Bloodworth show. High Society.
High Society, right.
Now, it was, I didn't know it at the time because the writers kept lying to me, kept saying, no, it's not. It was an American version of Ab Fab, which I had never seen. And the thing is, it's very hard, I think, to translate British humor into American humor. It just somehow just doesn't work. Also, too, I mean, they didn't have censors, so big difference. So we did this show for CBS. God bless them for trying it, but unfortunately, they immediately wanted to tone it down. And to me, if you didn't do it sort of tongue-in-cheek over the top, it would be rather tasteless. If you tried to make it real, that's when it would be tasteless. But they found it a little bit shocking because my character played a romance novelist who was so fabulously wealthy, and Mary McDonnell played my fabulously wealthy best friend who published my trashy novels. And we were both divorced. And I popped pills and drank all day long and lusted after her 17-year-old son. And the network had a problem with some of this. And so we did several of them, and they said, well, you know, if Gene will agree that they can do it more like Sybil. I thought, but that's not the same show. I mean, that's not, I mean, did you read the script? You know, if you want to do another Sybil, then do another Sybil, but that's not what this is. In fact, if you try to make it more real, it'll be, like I said, distasteful. You do it way over the top, you know, but I mean, you play it for the truth of that universe that you create, you know. But, so that was disappointing that we only did about 13 of those. But I must say, my favorite sitcom character I've ever played was a show that Peter Tolan wrote, who I think is brilliant, brilliant, the funniest man I've ever met in my life. And it was called Style and Substance, and it was sort of a Martha Stewart type character, and it was my favorite character I've ever played in a comedy.
And who was in that with you?
Nancy McKeon.
That's right.
And was.
And how many of those?
13. I don't know what happened to
Now,
that.
you've pretty much been
Except that Martha was not amused.
Oh. But you've pretty much, most of your stuff has been CBS, right? You're pretty much a CBS girl?
I started out NBC, then I was a CBS girl, and then they just kept canceling my shows, so I don't know.
And then along came 24.
Yeah.
Am I skipping any like big things I should remember? And it was a gift, and suddenly you're the first lady. And that episode that you just saw, is that not delightful? Is that not amazing? I have to say, my husband and I were never 24 watchers, and we started watching this year because Jean was on. And that first episode, when she dips her head in the water, I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun ride, you know? This is fabulous.
I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly because I was so grateful for the writers to write that, because I thought that says so much about a person without my having to do anything. I mean, and not only that, it informed the next several scenes. I mean, like the scene where I run outside and I'm screaming at the Secret Service agent, you're going to be eating dog food out of a can. I mean, if I had been beautifully coiffed, it would have just been an annoying woman screaming at him. But there was, you know, this is the First Lady of the United States of America, okay.
Dripping.
So, I mean, it was such a brilliant thing that they wrote, and I came to work my very first day. I was very excited, and I knew Gregory, and I had worked with Gregory on stage before, so there was a wonderful comfort level there, and I just think he's brilliant. And the first scene we were going to shoot was that scene outdoors where I'm screaming at the Secret Service agent, so we had to figure out what the aftermath of the scene was going to look like, which is always hard when you do the aftermath before the actual thing, because sometimes then they don't match at all. But they came up to me and they said, we decided we're not going to do the dunking of the face. And I was like, and I thought, okay, it's your first day, you have to be really nice.
And do I tell them right now it's the only reason I took the series was for that scene?
And I thought, oh dear, what do I do? And because I thought, I know this is a mistake. I mean, they created this wonderful thing, but I think it was just one of those practical decisions. You know, the line producer talked them into it and said, look, how long is it going to take between every take? You have to redo her hair, her makeup, dry her clothes, blah, 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 blah. You know, this is going to be a whole day. So I went to the hair and makeup people and I said, look, we have to figure something out. And we figured it out and we convinced them. We said, look, we will do this in 2 takes. Promise. 2 takes, max. We did it in 1 take.
Wow.
So,
rock on.
Because it really, I mean, that was the reaction I wanted. In fact, when right before the show premiered and I was doing some talk shows and some publicity, they wanted to show that clip, you know, to publicize the show. And I said,
can't show that.
I had even said to one of the producers, I said, they would never show that clip.
No.
They went, no, it gives too much away. And of course I go to this talk show, they said, oh yeah, we're showing the clip where you dug it. I said, no, you can't. You can't. There's nothing else. Well, no, because everything else gives stuff away. I said, no, not true, not true, not true. You've got to, no. So no clip, they didn't show it.
Wow.
Of course, then I found out that they'd shown it on Access Hollywood or something. But at least I tried to live, because I said, and I tried to explain to them, I said, the thing is, if you've seen it already on a talk show or something, even if you see it and enjoy it again when you watch the show, it's not going to have the same effect.
Right.
You're not going to.
Absolutely.
You're going to say, oh, watch, this is really funny. Watch what she does. You know, oh yeah. Instead of going, what you did. Oh my God, this woman is going to be really interesting to watch. You know, this is going to be an interesting character. And
Now,
so thank God.
Did you do you think it was a conscious decision on the part of the writers, producers to call her Martha in tribute to what's her name?
Oh, Martha Mitchell.
Martha Mitchell, thank you.
Oh, completely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that they wanted me to do Martha or that they were writing Martha, but when they were first, they told me that when they were first sort of sitting around brainstorming, because Gregory Itzin was thrust into the presidency at the very end of season 4 when the other president's plane went down, but they never saw his wife
Right.
in those last few episodes. So they decided they wanted to bring him back this year, wisely. And they said, well, he has to have a wife. What kind of first lady do we want? So they all sat around trying to decide, and they said, well, might be fun to have someone who's sort of a loose cannon, maybe. And somebody else said, oh, yeah, kind of like Martha Mitchell. Remember her? Oh, she was always spouting her mouth off, and everyone wanted to shut her up. And so they called her Martha. And then, you know, that's when they started trying to think of who they should get.
Now, I have interviewed Gregory and Mary Lynn, and
Love them
one of the things I was the most shocked about was that the writers, for those of you, were most of you there at the other ones, that the writers don't know at the beginning of the season how the show's going to end. And literally, it just goes along. Did anything come up for you as an actor based on who you thought your character was that suddenly became very challenging? Or did it all work out for you?
There was only a point about a third of the way through where I felt that, and once she was medicated, that I wasn't sure they or I knew quite what to do with her. And I didn't want her to become this sort of strident person who was always telling people, you know, you're not doing the right thing, or, you know. And so I said, can't she go off her meds again? She was a lot more fun. And they understood that, you know, but I admire that about them. I love the fact that they're sort of this unbelievable success, but they still sort of fly by the seat of their pants. And I think that, and Gregory, I know I'm sure he said this, he had a hard time at first when they decided to make him the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
And, but then he kind of got to enjoy it, especially when he smacked the heck out of me. Of course, I got to slap him too, so. No, but there wasn't anything particular. I mean, I knew that it was just that I knew that I wasn't going to know, so. I mean, it's frustrating a little bit because every once in a while you think, ooh, this is going to come across as bad acting 101, because, you know, you are, as an actor, you strive to be as specific in your work as you can and in your relationships to the other characters. But by the very nature of the show, you try to remain a little bit ambiguous. They kind of want you to, because you never know when all of a sudden that relationship's going to become something dramatically different,
Right.
or they might suddenly get it in their head from something you do, even unconsciously, they get an idea of something. And so you're always afraid to sort of commit to things strongly. So you think, I'm just going to come across as neither fish nor fowl. But I think, certainly for me, maybe it was a little bit easier because Martha was a very strong, distinctive character from the first moment you saw her, that they could kind of take her in any direction. You know what I mean? Because she was an impulsive person, you know. So.
Do you think left to her own devices, she would run off with her Secret Service man?
My Boy Scout. I call him my Boy Scout. I mean, not being the first lady and all that
Yes.
stuff, and everything that goes with that.
Yeah. Well, maybe while. I don't
Oh,
know.
I think that Aaron's the one he's just so honorable. He would not have,
I think it would be hard to sleep with somebody who calls you ma'am. That would get old after a while.
Well, this is why he purposely called me Martha in that very in the
Is that
scene
right?
where I save his life. He calls me Martha.
Oh.
That was a big thing for him.
And what happened to Evelyn?
I had a cigarette afterwards. It was fabulous.
And what happened to Evelyn?
What happened to Evelyn?
The Evelyn, her assistant, Evelyn disappears. She's in a hotel room. She's dying. She's with her daughter. We never hear about Evelyn again.
No, but you see that the bad guy knows where she is, so you have to assume the worst.
I can't assume the
They're
worst.
not
about
going to
Evelyn.
show a bad guy shooting a little girl.
Okay, there you go. She'll be back.
I don't think
And
so. Well, the thing is, I started feeling bad about it too because I thought, how come I'm not asking about Evelyn? Forgetting, of course, because it's the same day, because you keep forgetting. It's the same day, you idiot,
and I think you're like the only character who gets to change her clothes.
Well, it's the first lady. They change
Yeah.
their clothes all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. If I'd been at CTU, I'd still be wearing that horrible purple suit. I was wearing for a while.
So, what would you like to do next, acting-wise?
Just, I would like to play Martha again for a while if they'll have me. Don't know yet.
And will they?
I think, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to revive that storyline, especially since we're not in the White House anymore. Not welcome in the White House anymore. But we'll see. I think they would like to do something with the Logans, but I think they're definitely moving on to other things. And I would love to do, some more
Yes,
movies.
because Jack Bauer's on his way to China.
Yeah, because even if you fly to China, that's going to be at least half the season right there. So. Well, I don't know what they're going to do about that. A lot of scenes on an airplane, that's all I can say. They'll move the whole CTU plane like Air Force One, Air Force CTU flying to China. I don't know.
And then suddenly people make guest appearances.
I'm sure they wrote that and then said, what are we going to do next year? And they went, I don't know, who cares? I'll see you in a couple months. So I don't know.
Well, we're going to ask some questions here, and I think I have new ones to add in. My lovely assistant, thank you so much. These are not edited. I read them in random, wild order, unless I think they're horribly inappropriate. We have a question from Chandler Hill. Chandler, wave.
What a great name.
There's Chandler. Okay, Chandler wants to know, will your character return next season?
Oh, I think maybe a little, briefly, but nothing definite yet.
Okay,
Thank
now
you.
we have a name I can't pronounce. Haz Sleeman? There you go, good. Haz wants to know, was it a conscious decision to make the First Lady such a multi-dimensional character? And if so, how do you go about accomplishing that? Tell us, oh wise one.
I'm glad you asked that. I don't know. She was so much fun to play, and again, the challenge of this show, unlike any other job I've ever done, is that as an actor, you have to sort of just let go and do those trust exercises they made you do in college, where you just have to sort of play the truth of the scene as that they present to you, and trust that they pieced this all together into a wonderful, interesting story. Knowing that relationships may change on a dime, and and sometimes, I mean, being a Virgo, I would get annoying sometimes. I'd say, I'm really sorry, I'm having a Virgo attack, but I have to ask you this. See, like 20 minutes, wasn't it only like 20 minutes ago I said to him, can I really? And they go, okay. Yeah, maybe, good point, okay. I mean, the only thing that I really worried about was the presidential quickie. If any of you saw the last couple episodes.
When you sacrificed yourself for the greater cause.
I took one for the team.
Yeah.
First of all, I read read that scene and I said, every man in America is going to hate me. Hate me.
Well, the women weren't very happy with you either, for God's sake.
But I remember I called one of the producers and I said, I want this finale to be so, it's important. I mean, it wraps up the whole series. And I'm not really answering your question, I apologize. But I said to them, there really wasn't very much time. The time she was unbuttoning his shirt, and I know we had a long commercial, but and I know they've been married a long time, so you kind of get it down, you know. But whew, you know, and of course, a few of the crew members made some suggestions about what I might have done. So it's like, okay, fine, okay. Thank you for your input. Thank you. But they do admit that sometimes they fudge the time issue just a little bit. But I mean, I do love the fact that they keep the clock ticking right through the commercials, which keeps that reality. But I do sometimes I would say, but how can I have gone from that emotional place with him to this in 20 minutes and then an hour later this, and then we're back to, you know. But again, I had the biggest advantage was working with one of the most brilliant actors I've ever worked with in my life, and I really mean that about Gregory Itzin. He teaches acting, by the way, if anybody's interested. He's fantastic and an extremely nice person. We sing show tunes between scenes sometimes. It's great. He's a very frustrated song and dance man. But again, I also had the advantage of playing someone who was a little unstable, a mercurial personality, a little impulsive. So that certainly was to my advantage in her making those, going back and forth in her feelings, you know. About
Did
him.
you?
I have to say that I have a major crush on you, and I think this might be inappropriate, but I think you're very hot.
Whoa! Thank you. Not inappropriate in the least.
Let me just say for the record, in case the soundtrack, Jean was just told she's very hot. We should have that on film.
By hot.
Very hot. Did you watch dailies? Did you watch it as it went along, or did you not see episodes until they were on the air?
You would occasionally see something if you had to loop something, you know.
And in your career, have you watched most of what you've done? Have you seen most of what you've done, or?
Less and less as time goes by. There's a miniseries I did that I never saw. There's a movie I did that I never saw. I don't know.
Do you
I don't
like
know why.
watching yourself, or do you hate it, or somewhere in between?
It depends. Sometimes both. I mean, my husband accused me one time of being. He caught me watching some old TV movie or something I'd done, you know, late at night, watching in the bedroom in the dark. He said, you're like, what's her name in Sunset Boulevard? I don't do that anymore. But no, I mean, there are times.
I can see Richard doing.
It's true. A long time ago, I got over hating the way I looked and hating the way I sounded most of the time on film. And I finally got to the mature point of being able to say, did it come across the way I hoped? Did I accomplish what I hoped to accomplish? But sometimes I don't know why. Well, I did a movie called Sweet Home Alabama, which I didn't see, partly because I was annoyed because I had this huge scene that they cut, which the director had told me was his favorite scene in the movie, and then he let them cut it. So I was kind of annoyed about that. So I didn't go in my big protest, you know, and then I just didn't get around to seeing it. But actually, I heard it was a very cute movie, and it was a lot of fun to work on. And then I didn't see Scarlet, a miniseries I did called Scarlet. A couple other things.
But you remember the horse.
I remember the horse.
Yes. Do you feel like your relationship / attitude towards your career has shifted as you've matured?
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. And
Is it better?
Well,
More accepting?
Yeah, more accepting. I don't know if that's better. I think that just by necessity, you come to a point where you say, okay, well, I'm not going to have the career I thought I was going to have, or that I hoped I was going to have, or I'm not going to play the kind of parts I thought I was going to play, or you have to accept the fact that maybe just people don't perceive you the way you perceive yourself. They don't see you the way you see yourself. And obviously you have to come to terms with that, or as an actor, or you're a fool, you know, but, and also too, I just think, and anybody who reaches a certain age, you just sort of, I'm still competitive, and I still have, you know, a lot of things I want to do, but the drive is not as strong as it used to be. And part of that is being a parent, and you know, it's
Being
just-
more fulfilled and content in other areas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, we have a question from Jeff Brown. Where's Jeff? Wait, there you go, Jeff. Jeff wants to know, how do you do research to play a role, such as the First Lady in 24? How much time did you spend with Hillary Clinton to get ready for this?
I've actually met Hillary, but no, you know what? I don't hold with a lot of research. I use the script as my research. To me, even if I'm playing a character that was a real person, which has not been very often.
For instance, when she did the fabulous Eileen Wuornos in the serial killer movie, which you created.
Thank you. That's the only one I did any research on, because she was still living, but I think for me, I believe I let the script be my guide. I don't, and also too, I certainly was not basing this on any First Lady there, but I actually have an interesting book about First Ladies. We've had some amazing First Ladies throughout history. But because Martha Logan, we see mostly behind the scenes, I'm sure Martha's public persona is probably, you know, lovely and serene and together, and I'm sure when she takes those kids to see the White House Christmas tree, and you know, and she meets with the ladies from the whatever, you know, I mean, she can do all that when on a good day, but we're seeing mostly the behind the scenes. I mean, God knows what Laura says to George and Crawford, you know, she probably gives him holy hail down in Crawford. I hope so.
Not enough.
I bet she's dunked her head once or twice.
Ooh, we have a good question from Kimberly Grace. Where's Kimberly? Kimberly wants to know,
Girl, finally.
who inspires you?
Who inspires you? Me.
Besides me, yes, I know. But other than
I mean, as an actor, gosh, there's so many actors that I admire that I would love to work with. I feel terrible saying this, but they're mostly men. I guess because I'm too competitive to say about the other women. I don't want to work with her. No. Certainly some of the people I admire, and of course, it's like when someone says you don't need good jokes, so you have 1,000 of them and you can't think of them. There's so many wonderful, I mean, Kevin Spacey I think is amazing. The mad Australian, you know, Russell, I think is incredible. I think he's incredibly talented. Peter Sarsgaard, I think, is beyond brilliant and can do anything.
Are there any directors you'd like to work with that you haven't worked with?
Oh gosh, I can't. Well, so many. Yeah, a lot. I would like to work again for Audrey Wells, who directed me in a little movie for Miramax called Guinevere.
In which you were fabulous.
Thank you. She had also written it. She is an amazing writer and an amazing director. She also wrote, the Diane Lane movie that was set in Italy.
Under the
Thank you, Under the Tuscan Sun. I was supposed to be in it. I couldn't do it. She also wrote Dance With Me, the movie with Richard Gere and Susan Sarandon and Jennifer Lopez. She wrote one of the best romantic comedies I've ever seen called The Truth About Cats and Dogs with Uma Thurman and Janine Garofalo. Wonderful. She's an extremely, extremely talented, incredibly bright woman. I would love to work with her again.
You should drop her a note. Let her know.
Okay.
All right. We have a question from Suzanne Malat. Am I saying that right? The mother. Oh, the mother. All right. Do you have a, and if so, who is your mentor?
I guess I don't have one, strictly speaking. I mean, like a teacher or a
Just someone that, that you looked up to?
my daddy. My daddy.
I like that.
I lost him 2 years ago, but
I love my mom.
yeah.
I understand.
He was probably the the greatest person I've ever known. Yeah.
Well, her mentor was my mother, so that was.
That's good. That's good.
All right, you two can talk afterwards. I have an interview to do here. I'm sorry. We have Anna Calafia. She has a series of questions. Which do you prefer, comedy or drama?
I would hate to have to choose. It's so great to be able to do both.
Do you feel like you've done
If-
more one than the other?
No,
No?
no, probably. If I look at theater, including theater and everything, definitely more
comedy.
drama.
Really?
Oh yeah, including theater.
Really?
Oh yeah. But I always sort of made a joke, but I think it's sort of true. Is that if you're at work all day playing, Clytemnestra or Medea or something, you're probably in a really good mood when you go home. I think it's very therapeutic, like playing Martha even. I think if you had to be Little Mary Sunshine at work all day, you're probably a real witch at home. But the wonderful I guess my ideal would be to do some brilliant comedies on stage. It's really hard to do a comedy without an audience, and do drama, save drama for film. Would be my ideal.
Well, then Anna also wants to know, do you want to do Broadway again?
Oh, it's been 6 years now since I've been on Broadway, and I've been offered a few things that I've not been able to do or I've turned down because I still feel that I have a 16-year-old son and I still feel that I need to sort of be home if it's during the school year. The last one I did was during the summer, so that was okay. We all went, but I'm sure it's my excuse now. He probably wouldn't mind if Mom.
Go!
Yeah, right. It's me that's. But I definitely would like to soon. Certainly.
And by the way, Anna wants you to know that the Emmy is yours this year. Just in case you're worried about it.
Bless you.
Thank you. And then we have a
That would be
question
nice.
from Willow. Willow wants to know, what do you think influenced you the most in your decision to be an actress? Was it your enormous talent or that cute boy in the leotard you couldn't stay away from in the play?
I was fortunate to have some really remarkable teachers, really in high school and also at the University of Washington. Two of them in particular in college who also happened to be wonderful actors. I think wonderful actors make great teachers. And there's a program at the University of Washington, which is a Bachelor of Fine Arts program. I guess now it's a Master of Fine Arts program. That is a little bit separate from the regular drama department. And after 2 years in the drama department, then I auditioned for the BFA program. And that was a very small group. And the 12 of us were together for 3 years. There were just 8 men and 4 women. And
Good ratio.
And we did plays. As soon as we opened one play, we started rehearsing the next. They brought in guest directors, and we had all the great sets and the great costumes. And then we did Commedia, and we did Shakespeare, and we did Chekhov, and we did, Inge, and we did
Eugene
Pirandello. And I mean, so it was a wonderful, wonderful training experience and gave us an enormous amount of self-confidence. It was great.
We have a question here from Joel Stephen.
Right here, you answered it all.
All right.
You sure? What is it?
Can I ask another question?
Of course you can.
Greg, I was here for Greg too.
Oh, hi, thank you. I was here for Gregory Itzin too, and he just loves you. And
Aw,
he
he's
said you
great.
two have worked together many times before. What are all the
Well, we did a
other
play
things?
together.
Just one thing?
Yeah, 20 years.
What'd you do?
20 years ago, we did a play called Mrs. California. And in fact, I was going through some papers a couple months ago, and I happened to run across, completely by accident, this little black and white snapshot of the cast from Mrs. California. It was set in the 50s, the play. It was a play based on the actual Mrs., not Miss, Mrs. California pageant, where married women would compete. And anyway, it was a wonderful play written by a wonderful writer named Doris Baisley. And Gregory was in it. And in this snapshot, he happened to be standing right behind me, and he was wearing a tuxedo, and he's got this big smile on his face, and he looked every bit, it looked, I mean, if you just looked at the two of us, it looked like every bit the young senator or the congressman, and his wife, and I took it and showed it to the producers, and they said, oh my God, this is incredible, because it was actually the two of us 20 years ago, the Logans in happier times, And so they took it to the prop department and blew it up and had it framed and put it on the set. And there was actually one scene where I think they saw it, but it ultimately didn't end up in the show. Actually, it was funny because they had to blow it up so much, the quality wasn't good, and they moved me a little closer to Gregory, so it actually looked like a little bit like it had been doctored, where in actual truth, it was us together 20 years ago.
So funny.
That was great. That was fun.
And now, I have to say, I did sort of misspeak a little while ago because Jean actually has directed. She's directed her son's play.
I've directed plays at my son's school for the last 3 years.
She's done the costumes. She's built the sets. She's done the makeup. You've done everything. You've been quite fabulous there. So, don't want to forget that. Now we have Patty Santos. Patty wants to know, with the way the plot changed as the show went on.
Basically, do you have any regrets
Oh.
in some of the choices that you
Yes.
made as an actor, looking back at some of the things that you did, now knowing how you turned out and how things turned out?
Did you screw up, darling?
Oh gosh, it's so hard. It's so hard to say. It goes at sort of a breakneck speed. Although it's at the same time it's the most easygoing set I've ever worked on.
Well, because I don't think your character changed.
No,
I mean,
not really. I mean, the only, as I had said a little bit earlier, the only thing that concerned me was towards the end when she would say, I hate you, and then she'd say, I'm sorry. But that's real. I mean, we do that. You have a horrendous fight with someone that you care about, even if you think, even if something terrible has come between you, you still have these feelings, or certainly after a long-term marriage, you have that bond, and you think, I can't look at you, I can't be with you, I can't, I don't respect you, and then, she started drinking and taking her pills, and then she calls him and she's sorry and she wants to talk, and it's like she's sobbing, and he rejects her, and then he comes back to her, he's considering suicide, and she's now just ice again, and says, one of my favorite lines, she says, I never knew you were such a good liar. She said, if I wasn't so horrified by the fact that I was married to you, I'd be quite impressed. But, and then of course she has to go back to him and then say, but now that's an act, and say, I said terrible things to you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, and get in bed. But, no, I mean, the thing is, you can't, because you're sort of, again, it's not the actor's medium, it's the writers and the editors, and I would have liked to have injected a little bit more of Martha's, what I think of Martha's humor. I thought Martha was kind of funny, and they said, Jane, we don't do funny. Okay. Come on, Chloe's kind of funny. Okay.
But
No, we don't do funny.
But Chloe's funny because she scowls.
No, but she does some funny stuff. She's funny. I love her. But I thought Martha had a wonderfully kind of offbeat kind of sense of humor. I mean, when she says to the Secret Service agent that she ends up killing, she says, she goes, do you have a first name? He says, Justin, ma'am. Because you don't have much of a personality, do you, Justin? That was one of my favorite lines. But,
Now we have Alfina Delfina. Is that how you say it? That's a good name.
fabulous. Is it Greek? No. Delphina. No. Delphina.
Made
Delphina?
up. So Alfina wants to know, do you prefer TV over movies or theater?
Theater and films are so different. It's almost like two different, it's like apples and oranges. It's almost like two different professions. Theater is much more satisfying in the sense that, you know, you have more time to rehearse and work on your character, and every night is kind of new with a new audience, and you think, you know, tonight I can try something I can really nail. Oh, I really nailed that tonight, or tomorrow night I can, you know, this.
And you can act in increments longer than 30 seconds to 2 minutes.
Exactly.
On stage.
And also you tend to get slightly better writing, I think, in the theater, you know. Not necessarily anymore. I don't know if that's true anymore, but I think I like doing films also because there is something wonderful about going with your first and best instinct. I mean, your first instinct isn't always your best instinct, but I find oftentimes it is. And if you have good actors, I think you need to trust that their first instincts are often their best ones. So if you're only going to get a few takes, that's kind of a fun thing too. And then you think, okay, we nailed it and it's done, never have to do it again, and it's signed, sealed, delivered in the, you know. And of course, obviously, you can barely make a living doing theater. So obviously the rewards of doing television certainly are the best. Film, only if you're sort of in the B level and you're constantly working, you can make, you know, a very good living. But certainly the money is in television. I mean, when I did Garden State, which was great fun to do, I was talking to one of my nephews the other day. He's 16, you know, and he was talking about money and actors and all this. I said, "How much money do you think I made when I did the movie Garden State?" And he said, like, "Well, I don't know, about 80." I said, 80, what, 1,000? And he said, "Yeah." I said, no. He says, 60, 50. 30? No. Now he's going. He goes, 20? Mm-mm. 15? No. 10? No. I said, honey, they paid more for my airfare to get me to New Jersey than they paid me to do the movie. Just true. But it was fun. I mean, which was fine. I mean, I only worked for a couple of days, and it was a very low-budget film. But, you know, I mean, it's, you know, people make assumptions, you know. But, I mean, the way the business is now, I mean, that's one of the bad things, even in television. And it changed dramatically. I mean, I have friends who are actors who were, I mean, we're talking about good, talented yeoman actors who would do a certain number of guest spots or a certain number of TV movies, character roles a year, and they were able to, you know, keep a roof over their head and feed their kids, and you know, and all of a sudden overnight it was like the industry said, why are we paying these actors this money? There's 1,000 people lined up to play their part who are probably just as talented. So I mean, almost overnight, and this is why, I mean, I knew people that their houses were being foreclosed on and cars repossessed, and because all of a sudden in like a period of maybe 18 months, it seemed to change. You remember that? And all of a sudden, it was the leads would get the money, and then everybody else was getting scale plus 10.
Well, it's the old eruption of the middle class. The rich get rich. You know, you can't make your quote because Ben Affleck has to get his 20 million, and that's kind of the history of the world.
Yeah, but that happened very quickly, though. I mean, it used to be that people, character actors, people who've been in the union for years, I mean, really good actors who've been constantly working, who made their living as an actor, suddenly just could not make their living as an actor anymore. And I was upset that, you know, I mean, because you think, it seems like in other professions, they wouldn't
get
stand for.
raises.
Well, no, but I mean, in other professions they wouldn't stand for that? Where someone who'd been in the union for 30 years suddenly is being offered scale? Would that happen? Would it even be allowed? I mean, I don't know. Would it?
We can get into a long union discussion.
Well, no, I don't want to do that.
Because I got a lot of information in this particular area. But before we go there, let me ask you one other acting question. Are you a good auditioner? Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know what? I used to be a really, really good auditioner. I loved going to auditions. And then I went through a period where I wasn't auditioning as much and I got out of practice and I started getting nervous. And then one day I had one horrendous audition. I don't know what was going on with me. And that threw me completely. And then I would dread auditions.
Because you mostly get offers now, right? You don't really
Well,
do that much.
not for features.
So you still go in like
For features, yeah.
regular old
For theater
audition?
and TV, I don't, but for
Yeah.
features, I do. But
So are you back?
but
liking it?
I'm getting back to where I feel okay about it. But the thing that I have learned, I still make mistakes. I still don't listen. But whenever I go against my instincts, I'm almost always sorry. Almost always sorry. A couple of years ago, I was asked to audition for this huge director.
Who shall remain nameless?
Well, I can't even remember the name, but it was.
But he was huge.
It was one of those. It was one of those where you just go, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," you know.
How is Woody
I have to
Allen?
No, it wasn't Woody. But I told my director, I can't remember what was going on with me, and I just said, I just don't feel like I can do this today. I can't. I could no more go in there and be funny, let alone charming and whatever, than fly to the moon. And he said, yeah, I know, but this could be, I mean, if we wait till next week, it could be gone. They could cast it. I said, and oh man, was I right? I was neither funny nor charming. And I'm thinking, well, that's probably the last time that I'll ever have an audition with that director. That's the problem is it's not like you can, like he's going to suddenly say, oh, I want to see her again. Let's have her in on the next thing. No, it's not going to happen.
Is there any, I mean, obviously, everybody wants to work and keep working, but is there like I have certain characters I have yet to play that I want to play, not necessarily a specific character, but I want to do really, really angry, bitter, I haven't really done that. I've cried a lot. Do you feel like there are certain things you haven't gotten to do yet that, I want to go this way, I want to go that way, that you'd like to have the opportunity to do?
Oh, sure.
I know playing a grandmother is high on your list, but kidding.
No, trust me. I mean, that's the category I'm in.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
no, yes, it is. Oh, it certainly is.
You're the first lady for crying out loud here.
And I'm talking about in terms of what I get sent.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
once-
a young grandmother.
Yeah. I once did an audition for a part because they asked, it was the line I had to say, my daughter, it was like a sitcom, and then I had to say, so Susie, are you going to give me any more grandchildren? And it was the word more that did me in. You're going to give me any more grandchildren,
No.
indicating there's already
the thing
one.
I'm sorry, I have to say this. The thing that makes me crazy, and I understand this, poor writers, I mean, they're in the position now where if they turn in a script and there's a character in it, a lead character that's over 40, they're so afraid that it's not going to get done that they go through all these machinations and backflips to try to make the person as young as humanly possible. And I was reading this script, and the lead couple were 40-ish. They were described as 40-ish. And then later in the script, you read that they're celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. You think, someone's not doing their math, but they knew that if, some producer opened the script and said, Bob and Sue, early 50s, but that's it, next, And then my favorite one was when my agent sent me a script and I started reading it and it described the character and it said she was 35 but still attractive. It was the combination of the three words that did it. It was great. Even if
But
you'd
still
left one of
attractive.
them out, but attractive would have been bad enough. Still, it was the still and the but and attractive. Not even pretty or sexy, but still attractive.
So
35.
why do you think it is?
No, I called my agent. I said, I'm not even going to look at the front of the script. Tell me this was not written by
By a
a guy in his 20s. And he said, yeah, how'd you know? I said,
So why do you think it became de rigueur for in Hollywood that when you turn 40 as a woman, you start playing the mother of 30-year-olds? How did that come
because
to
they
be?
think that no one wants to look at anybody who's over 40.
Is that it?
Especially if you're a woman.
And why is it okay for Sean Connery
Because
to
he's
be with
sexy
an
as hell.
18-year-old, but you never see Kathy Bates
But
with
you know
Brad
what?
Pitt as her boyfriend? I mean, what's up with that? Why has that never happened?
Do you have 7 hours?
It's just wrong, isn't it?
I think, you know what? I hate to say this. I do think that it's a part of it is the American mentality, and we've sort of gotten used to seeing things in movies to the point where you and I were talking about this the other day. Is that when in the movie about Schmidt, Jack Nicholson, you're so used to seeing him with young women on stage, I mean on screen and off screen, that when we saw him with a woman who was
Age
basically
appropriate.
his age, you went, oh, is that his mom? No. But it's because if you're used to seeing something over and over and over and over, anything else is going to be jarring. The same way if you see a woman in a movie who doesn't look kind of perfect unless she's playing a character part, you go, oh God, why did they shoot her that way? Oh, why did she let them shoot her? Oh, from that angle. Oh God. Where you see a guy, and I don't know what it is, you see an actor who, he can have a little jowl, he can have bags.
Tony Soprano, hello.
I know, he's cute as hell. He is.
Oh, no.
He can have bad skin, but if he's a good actor, all you do is listen to what he's saying and you look in his eyes. You don't even look at the other stuff. And I don't know what that's, it might be partly human nature, I hate to say, and partly this town.
Hi, my name's Alicia.
Hi.
I wanted to know what is the best and worst part of your career so far?
Oh, God. I think I'll start with the worst, then we can go up. The worst, I think, is I think often in this business, unfortunately, you find yourself in a position where you're trying to please and impress or try to second guess what they want, people that you have no respect for. And that's I can't think of a situation more unhealthy mentally than that. So that's not good. And certainly for a woman, that whole idea that if you're not completely a character actress, you've got to be considered sexy. And once you're past a certain age, you can't possibly be considered sexy, so they don't really know what to do with you. You're kind of not interesting, so no one really wants to see a story about you because what do you have to offer? You don't have any sex to offer, so it's like, it's sort of like, what was it? Who was the famous director who said he only wanted women in his film if they were naked or dead?
Woody Allen?
Very,
No.
very, very. No, that was, he said, young
Or
young.
dead.
No, it was a very, very successful director. Who said that.
But before you answer the best part, I want to ask off of that. Are you, as an actress, would you call yourself a director's actor? Are you willing to do something you think is really wrong? If the not on an ongoing series where you really know.
By wrong, you mean incorrect.
Incorrect, not what you think the character would do. If the director says, please give me this, and then I'll give you an opportunity to do what you want to do, or do you just draw the line and say, no, I'm not going to be allowed to be put on film that way?
Boy, it really depends on the situation. I'll argue if I really feel strongly. I'll argue strongly because you think, yeah, well, sure. You say, oh, just give me one take like that, but then then they can
Use it.
Yeah. So I try to protect myself as much as that, but I think I pride myself on being very directable and easy to work with. So, I mean, I feel, I pride myself in having that reputation, I think. So I try to be, yeah, amenable to that.
Okay,
to
now
those
you
things.
can go on to the best.
But I think the best, nothing in specific, just in the sense that I've gotten to do so many wonderful things, and the fact that I have, for some reason, I've always worked on projects where people were just terrific people. I've never been on one of those sets where someone was just a nightmare, just a monster. You hear these horror stories.
You're lucky.
Almost everybody I know has a horror story. You do, my husband does. And although there's a part of me that wishes I was on a set with someone like that to just take him down a peg, you know? Just like, excuse me, what did you just say? But it's like when somebody told me that, oh no, I shouldn't badmouth other actors. That's bad karma. Never mind.
Well, now, in a business where we are pretty much chronically underemployed, both in the amount of work we get and in what we actually are allowed to do, you know, you get to pull out these 3 colors and leave all the rest of your crayons in the box. How have you felt fulfilled in the times where you're doing something where you don't feel artistically like you're allowed to really bring all of you out to play? What do you do with
I think
that?
there's very few actors that feel like they've gotten to do that, and certainly the older you get, you know, I mean, a lot of the kind of parts I would like to do, I can't do now simply because, you know, I would have to be 30, you know. There's just certain things, you know, you're not going to do, you know, at a certain age, but that's why you try to find material if you can. I mean, you try to be picky if you can afford to. I mean, that's the thing. If you can afford to not take everything that comes along, I mean, God forbid. I mean, I've been fortunate for the most part to feel that way.
I would say you easily turn down as much or more than you do.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying is what a luxury that is.
Yes, but I mean, wouldn't you say that's the truth, though? You've turned down a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, I just don't want to ever do anything that I'm going to be embarrassed to show my mother or my son or or myself. I mean, I'm a little bit of a snob about what I do, and I'd rather not work than, I'm not one of those people who has to just always be busy and has to be working. Luckily, I do really well with just like staring at fabric swatches and my dog. You know.
She's not kidding. This is true. What have you developed? What are some of the tools that you've developed over the years for coping with disappointment?
Oh.
Besides drugs and alcohol. If we go the other
well.
ones,
That's it.
Oh, that's
No,
it. Okay, all right.
At this point, you just have to say, okay, fine, whatever. But I remember when I think this is valuable. I think you do have to do this sometimes, although you get away with it more when you're younger. But one of the first movies I ever did was a movie with Goldie Hawn called Protocol. And Herb Ross directed it. And I hadn't been in LA very long, and I was very excited, and I auditioned for a part of one of her friends. It was a very funny part. And I knew the director loved me, and the casting director loved me, and they'd called me back. And then my agent called, and she said, well, she had to give me one of those awful actor terms of, they're going in another direction.
Wait a minute.
Which direction would that be? Like south by northeast? But what does that mean? It's just not going to work. And for some reason, was the mood I was in that day or something, and I said, why? She goes, well, I don't know, Gene, this one's just not going to work out. I said, but I know the director wanted me. What happened? She goes, well, I don't know. I said, I want a reason. I don't want to just hear, oh, it's just not going to work out, or, oh, they're going to go to the director. I want the reason. I'll accept the reason, but I want to hear it. I want to hear what it is, which I'm sure was really fun for my agent to have to go back to the casting director and say, oh, But so anyway, all of a sudden, she calls me back the next morning or later that day or something, and she said, Well, actually, if you're still interested, the part is being, it's actually going to be a little bit smaller. So I don't care. It's all right. She goes, well, okay. And she talked to them again, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on. I have theories, but I ended up doing the part. It was a lot smaller, but it was only because I just said, no, I'm not going to just sit here and say, oh, okay. You know, I said, well, fine, give me a reason. I want a reason. Too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, too young, too old, what? I want to know. You know.
That's actually the title of my autobiography. This young lady has a question.
Ain't it the truth? God.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Paula,
Hi.
and we've met actually in the past. I'm a friend of Lonnie Smith.
Oh, yes, hi.
Hi. So, and I know your husband as well, and I
Yes.
know that you all know David Mamet.
Yes.
And I wonder, have you worked with him before?
I have never worked with David. I know his sister. In fact, I was just at her
Lynn.
wedding last weekend. David was there playing photographer. But I've done a couple of readings, actually, of Lynn's plays. But no, I've never worked with David.
Would you want to?
Sure, yeah. He's very interesting, very talented.
You know, it's so funny. I hear the name David Mamet, and immediately what comes to my mind is the word fuck. It's like a Pavlovian response. David Mamet. We have a question from this lovely young lady here.
Yeah, I like your attitude.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Now, I'm Arlene Pegg, and I have.
Can you speak into the mic,
I'm
sweetie?
probably the only person in America who's never seen 24, specifically because my son, who is from Atlanta, he adores you, thinks it's the best show he's ever seen. My daughter here, I mean, she won't go places on that night so she can see 24. And I was thinking, they got me hooked on Friends years ago. I didn't want to find another television show I liked. However, I mentioned we're from Atlanta. And I have to say, and I have absolutely loved you since, because you had it dead on, and all of you did.
What?
And the show Designing Women
yes.
took place in Atlanta.
Yes.
And I mean, for a long time, I believed that, I used to say, well, I live near there. I mean, it's like, I didn't even know you really weren't from there. How did y'all get that Southern, the attitude? The writers were phenomenal. And I can always spot fake Southern accents. And y'all
I
were real.
was surrounded. If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, you were good.
That actually, you should tell, that actually got in the way of Gene a couple times. People wouldn't see you because they thought you were Southern.
Yeah.
After that show. You had to fight to convince themselves you were
Although it was
Northerner.
funny, I thought one of the fun things about doing the show was going to be to play this Southern character who was so Southern, and and we had our first table read with the network, and we were all very nervous and everything, and all the suits were there, and then there was this big meeting, confab, after lunch, and they came to us, and they told all of us, they said, it was great, we're fine, but we've decided we're going to do the show. We don't want any of you to have Southern accent. I was like, what? I mean, and actors understand that is not as simple as that. You don't just say, play the same character, but take away the accent or change the accent. It's an integral part of that person. It infuses every part of them, and I was particularly distraught because I was the only Yankee in the bunch, and I thought, but that's what I thought was going to be the part of the fun of playing, getting into this character, and I thought, well, what am I, they were afraid that people would not understand what we were saying. And now we got George W., we can understand him. But eventually we kind of went, oh, okay. And then everybody just kind of did a modified version of their accent, and then pretty soon everybody just slipped back into the whole, nobody said anything, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Me, hi.
Hi.
I'm Alex.
Hi.
Someone mentioned with your work on 24 that it is definitely Emmy-worthy work.
Well,
it's
thank you.
It's beautiful.
That would be fun.
What do you do to prepare?
Prepare.
When you're right about to shoot the scene, what's your preparation like?
She and
Do I have
Gregory
to tell you
sing
the
show
truth?
tunes.
Yeah. Tell you the truth. I'm usually in the craft service room eating. Which is why I couldn't get into that costume you just saw if my life depended on it, because I gained 7 pounds over the course of the day. Seriously. No, I'm sorry. I'm one of those actors who, I must say though, some of the scenes that were particularly emotionally difficult, I would just sort of, I didn't do anything specific, but I would sort of keep to myself a little bit. But for the most part, I don't take my work home with me, and I don't, I remember I did a scene with a girl once who had to be crying in the scene. And she said how she had to get up very, very early that morning to get herself overwrought into such an emotional state. And I thought, that's why? That's not, I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, I understand getting mentally into a place and connecting with the script. I find often that, to me, it's very easy to cry on camera if I have good words to say. In fact, sometimes I have to fight not to, sometimes. It's usually the words that do it for me. But I think it's just a matter of, if you have good words to say and you're concentrating, I mean, that's all going to sort of take care of itself. But I'm not, unfortunately, one of those actors who or fortunately or unfortunately, who sort of has to sort of live their life around the character. I can kind of pick it up and put it down, you know. Again, as I said, though, I mean, particularly there was a scene with Gregory, the last episode of the show, that was very emotional and very physical, and is not something I would want to do again. That was difficult. Gregory and I definitely did not sing show tunes between those days. We sort of stayed away from each other a little bit, or we'd say, you know, are you okay? And, you know, because he almost gave me whiplash in one scene. But sometimes it's just something personal, or it's just, I'll just go over the scene in my head. And I try not to overthink it too much, because I want it to come out, you know, organically, you know.
Somebody is very happy about that.
You're a Virgo and so am I.
When's your birthday?
September 1st.
That's my dog's birthday. He's fabulous. No, but I only picked, it's actually probably not his real birthday. No, my father was the 4th, I'm the 13th. I picked September 1st for my dog because he was a stray and I had to pick his birthday. So I made him a Virgo because I love Virgos.
Yes, sir, right back here.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hi.
I've actually had the pleasure of meeting a number of your crew and cast from 24, and they're a wonderful, wonderful group of people.
Yes.
My question being is that, from the sounds of it, you've worked very consistently throughout your career, but was there ever a time where you did struggle and kind of wondered where you're going to get, how you're going to pay your next rent, and how you got through that, or if that was never ever the case?
Fortunately, I didn't go through that much. When I was doing theater in Seattle, when I was right out of school and I was single and young, and you know, there'd be times where I'd think, everyone's like, oh boy, yeah, next month's rent's going to be interesting. But I never worried about it. I always just thought, oh, well, something will come up, and something always did. So I was like that. I never had to wait tables, never had to do anything else. So I was very fortunate. So I'm not a good example of the person who really struggled and hung in there. I mean, if I had really had to struggle, and if I hadn't gotten a lot of positive feedback all the time, and I don't know how hard I would have pursued it, how long I would have hung in there. I don't know.
Well, and I'll tell you, when I did the play with Gene back in 1982 to 84, it was like literally one of the first things I'd ever done. I did not come from a theater background, and Gene was in a lot of ways my role model of here's this woman who the rest of us are, you know, like waiting tables and doing this play 4 nights a week, and Gene's off doing 17 different series and you know, having this fabulous career. And you never ever have made a big deal of things. You've always underplayed things. You were always my role model of, like, when I would be around friends who were not as fortunate as even I am to make a living. And I've always felt like you certainly are in a situation, you're married to an actor, and you have lots of friends who are actors. So What has been your process in terms of being able to be so real with people and have the success you've had? What have you done? I mean, you're very low key. You're not like, there's not like a lot of ego with you about it. What do you do? Do you sit privately in your room and gloat when we're not around?
I have my glorious once in evenings. I think sometimes it can be hard for actors to I've seen this, where actors are really, really good friends for a long time, and all of a sudden one of them is very successful, and it's I'm sorry, but it's hard for the other actor to keep wishing them well and being so happy for them over and over and over and over. I think the secret is the same secret to life in general, doesn't matter whether you're an actor or not, is find those few people in your life that you value and who value you and who truly wish you well and you wish them well, and keep those people close to you and forget about everything else, and my husband and I have friends that we've known for years, and I think that's part of it too. We don't have a lot of new friends, even though I've met incredible people. You'll meet people on a set or something, you're just convinced you're going to stay friends, you're going to keep in touch, and you really mean it at the time, but it's very, very rare that you actually do, and if you do, it probably means that you should, stay friends. But my husband in particular, I really admire the fact that he's got friends he's had for 30 years. Joe Mantegna is a very good friend of ours, and Joe's had enormous success. And all of Joe's friends, almost without exception, are people that he's known from the old days back in Chicago, when he did street theater. And my husband and Joe did Godspell together in their 20s for a year. My husband played Jesus and Joey played Judas, and they became best friends. And so I think that's part of it too. Old friends, people you've known for a long time, and no one else understands the business in a way like other actors. So that's a good thing and a bad thing,
And I will tell you one thing that will not be revealed about Jean anywhere else. I'm going to let it out. I'm going to let it out now, baby. This is the person you want to have every time I have an opening night, and there's any kind of review or anything there, and I've done a lot of plays.
If it's a comedy.
If it's a comedy. Otherwise, she makes a fool of herself. But you want Jean Smart in your audience. This woman will start the laughter, laugh louder, longer, and harder than anybody else. It doesn't matter if anybody else is not laughing. She's... I always say, okay, you're coming this night. But I don't fake it. No, you don't. You're the best laugher in the world. I like to laugh. She's a fabulous laugher.
When I met my husband, he was doing a play, and I went to see it, and the producer made me come back 7 times. She goes, "There's a reviewer here tonight. You have to come."
And actually, Joe Mantegna is very much like you. I mean, Joe. That's one of the great things about
best.
Joe. Is very low key. He's got no. I've never met somebody who was a movie star who was less pretentious than Joe Mantegna.
He's a sweetheart.
He's just a total down-to-earth
our
guy.
best man.
Where's our mic? I'm right here. Yeah,
I'm right here. My name is Crispin. I'm curious. I come from a theater background too, and I'm curious about your preparation when you're doing play. Do you have more of a routine, or what it is you do?
Well, one thing I did the last time I did a play on Broadway. I did a play at the Williamstown Theater Festival last summer, which was difficult, but it was a lot of fun. Only because it was Lady Windermere's fan, and we only had 3 weeks rehearsal, so that was a little nerve-wracking. But I have found with that piece, and then I did The Man Who Came to Dinner in New York about 5 years ago.
With Nathan Lane.
With Nathan Lane. It was great fun. And I found, I didn't used to do this, and I don't know whether it's just insecurity or whether I found that it's just a wise thing to do. I never did a performance without going over my whole entire role before the show started. What are you laughing at?
I'm just thinking of the Harriet story. It was
Oh, dear.
Sorry, never mind.
I'm sorry.
We know, when you do a lot of theater, you hear the great stories of like people not showing up on time, staying downstairs and playing cards when they're supposed to be on stage, and just wonder. Oh, okay, I'll shut up now. Where's the mic? Who has the mic?
Over here.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Jean. Hi, Lee.
Hi.
You
Hi.
guys should be a comedy team. I am, I am platzing from you.
We have worked together a lot of times.
Well, I'm looking forward to another event with the two of you. I've been watching 24 from day one.
Really?
In fact, Michael
I've only
Kiefer's
seen-
hairstylist is a friend of mine.
Marcelino?
Uh-huh.
Muzzy?
Yeah, I've known him for years because I go
Aw,
to the
he's a
same
sweet-
shop that he was working at. Anyway.
And your hair looks great, by the way.
It does.
Your hair looks fabulous.
Fabulous.
What?
All right.
Thank you. Just let it dry natural. I'm usually very sophisticated and straight. Anyway, Gene, I'm a Sagittarius, but I have three
The
planets.
sluts of the zodiac, I heard.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I read that somewhere. I'm sorry.
Scorpio.
My sister's a zodiac. I mean, a
Sag.
Sagittarius. And she's not a slut. Never mind. Why did I say that?
No, it's the
That's
Virgo
your
that makes me
question.
the slut. I have 3 planets in Virgo. So. Anyway, I was
just
sitting here trying to
teasing.
figure out your sign.
I'm teasing.
Anyway, the last hour of the final, I sit on my bed because my TV's in my bedroom, and I was applauding like an idiot. But I just, you just nailed it on that last 2 hours, but the last hour. I said, this is an Emmy. This is absolutely, she blew me away and everybody else. Thank you. You were spectacular. I mean, I loved it. And I've seen Gregory interviewed. I think it was on either Tavis Smiley or Charlie Rose. But anyway, I couldn't make it here for that night because it's something else. But thank you so much, Jean,
Oh, well, thank you.
for all your work.
Thank
Love you.
you.
And thank you, Lee.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the things Gregory pointed out to us, that for those of you who were there, and my husband and I actually started counting when the next couple of episodes after I interviewed him, was that the camera never stays on one shot more than 4 seconds. 1001, 1000, and it is true how fast it moves. You're not even aware of it till he said that, except it stays on Gregory longer because he does so much with his face that the camera just sort of,
Yeah.
stays on him because he's like a
he's
little
amazing.
symphony all
He's
by
amazing.
himself.
That is one thing on that show, is that if you have a scene that you feel requires really to take some time and breathe and stuff, you got to be prepared that that's going to be gone. It's sort of like use it or lose it. I mean, Gregory and I had a long scene in episode 24, the last episode, where after we have had the presidential quickie, and he zips up my dress, and we had this very long scene that was gone, and he was very, I was upset too. He was very, very upset because he felt that it really showed another side of his character. But it's that problem. Part of that was it's just time. That's the thing about television that is the most frustrating. Unlike a film, and unlike a play, in television, some of your best work can be gone, and the only reason will be because of time or because that particular scene doesn't move, the story along. But half the time it's because they need a commercial break. And that's frustrating. It's got to fit into that 30-minute or that 1 hour format or that hour and a half, that 2 hour format. And it's got to literally fit in a certain number of minutes. So you think stuff's gone not because it wasn't great or didn't work, but simply because of time and commercials.
I have a question for you. I was once asked to do a recurring character on a show. I was very excited, fabulous show. I'm not going to give any names. But it starred a movie star who was doing his first serious television role. And I sat on the set for an hour and I went, this show is never going to go. And the reason was because nobody was telling the movie star that in TV you don't get 120 takes. You do it in 3 and then you move on because you're shooting 12 pages, not a page and a half. What are your favorite and least favorite? I mean, which kind of set do you like the best? Do you like your director-driven sets, your writer-producer driven sets, your star-driven sets? Where do you find is the most conducive to, the real creative spirit?
I think a director.
Director?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want a director who knows what he wants. I don't want a director who just sort of says, well, we're all in this together, let's sit around and
Talk.
you know, improv. It's like, oh God, no, just tell me where to stand and what to say, okay?
How do you, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of what I do now is with first-time directors because there's this, you know,
Well, that could be
plethora.
another matter. I
Yeah.
mean, if they're,
But there's, well, the whole world now is about small independent films where you make $1.40. So there's a lot of them. You have to make a lot of them for $1.40.
Yeah.
How do you find yourself working with the, you know, just beginning directors and writers? Are you doing well?
Well, I mean, when
Like
I did Garden
Garden
State,
State?
I mean, that was, but that was so
Delightful?
fortunate because Zach, I mean, it's just brilliant. I mean, I still can't get over that he wrote it and directed it and starred in it and was cool as a cucumber and having a wonderful time and was equally brilliant in wearing all three hats. I don't know how he did it. I don't know which I admired more, his acting, his directing, or his writing. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, the little pisher. I mean, his agent has kept saying to him, it doesn't always happen that way. Please don't expect this to happen. You know, because I mean, he'd written this script and he was doing Scrubs, so it wasn't like he was starving. But he'd written this script, he'd been working on it for a while, and he'd actually apparently done a ton of student films in college. And his agent said it to Danny DeVito's company, and they said, yes, okay, we'll produce it, and yes, you can direct it, and okay, you can star in it, and oh yeah, we'll get Natalie Portman to play your leading lady, and Ian Holm to play your father, and he's going, okay. Cool, cool. He was cool as a cucumber. You'd have thought he'd
Been doing it for years?
forever.
Oh, that's cool. Gentleman back here.
Yeah, it's just killing me. What was the role that you had that you turned down on Broadway that you can you say?
Well, I was doing a play at Playwrights Horizons, and
What was it?
no, the play that I was doing at Playwrights, I think that one was a play by Robbie Bates called, it was either that one, The End of the Day, or it was another one, I can't remember the name of it. But it was the director who was doing, I blanked it out, it's, God. King and I. Which, I mean, I danced all over my living room when I was a little girl to that from the time I was 3 years old. My parents always played show tunes. And that was a fantasy. I mean, it was a fantasy. And for someone to say, well, you know, the director wants to meet with you and take you out to breakfast. And we went out to breakfast and he said, do you think you could handle the score? And I said, yeah, I think so. And, but I had a son at the time who was about 2 or a year old. And, or no, he was a little bit older than that. I think he was 4 or 5. And I said, well, we don't live here. And I've been here now for 3 months and we're supposed to go home. And I think it actually wasn't to originate. I think it was to take it over from whoever originated it. I can't remember. Was it Donna Murphy or Faith Prince? It was either Donna Murphy or Faith Prince.
Really?
That's the only one that I think I should have pursued that.
Where are we now? There we are.
Hi, I'm Tamara.
Hi.
Do you have any passion in your life to help to change, to help inform society and change the way they look at women over the age of 50? You know, with your status and your connections.
And with your voice. We could go places. I feel it.
But with the fact that all guest star roles are gone.
You know, I was at an awards evening last week at Women in Film. They were honoring Gina Davis, and there was a cinematographer, I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name, and Diane Warren, the incredible songwriter, and Jennifer Lopez, and also Donner, something Schuler Donner, what's her name, the producer, wonderful. Yes, Lauren Schuler. And Gina talked about that, how she always had just assumed that she would sort of be, you know, Jessica Tandy and, you know, and or even Meryl Streep and Jessica Lange and all those great parts they did in their 40s. And it seems to be just getting worse and worse and worse. And she said, I hit 40, and she goes, I did more than drive off that cliff in Thelma Louise. She said, I fell off that cliff. And she said, it was so shocking and so devastating to just find out that there wasn't anything, you know, Nobody wanted her, you know, essentially. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether we have to retrain audiences just to sort of, I mean, and she mentioned, she said there's this adage in Hollywood, and it seems to be people accept it as true. Whether it is or not, I don't know, is that women will watch films about men, but men are not interested in watching films about women, other than, you know, the obvious. You know.
They'll
You
watch
know.
the L word on film.
Yeah, with the sound off.
Yeah, with the sound off. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, whether that is true, whether it's in our genes, or whether it's American society, or whether it's just Hollywood, or, I mean, and again, you find yourself brainwashed to the point where you even react that way. Like, for instance, if you see a man and a woman who are the same age in a film, you think, well, they can't be married. She's too old for him. It's like Joanne Woodward said. She said, they would never cast me opposite my own husband. I'm considered way too old for my own husband. You know, it's the leading men get older and their leading ladies just keep staying the same age, like this. I mean, the actresses that worked with the biggest stars right now would never be cast opposite them. And yeah, but there is, I don't know what it is. The things that are thought of as attractive in a man come with age, and the things that are thought of as attractive in a woman come with youth. Now that is, huh?
Men that are casting.
No, it's mostly women that are
No,
casting.
it's women.
No, they're mostly women. It's mostly women. Huh?
Women don't get interesting until they're 50 anyway.
Well, I'm going to come over and kiss your feet again.
Younger women are more interested in their rear end and their breasts and their shoulders and their mouth, where a woman in her 50s knows what she's got and is too busy using and exploiting it rather than worrying about it.
Woo! Are you married? You're a very lucky woman. He's also very handsome.
So,
Thank you.
here inside the.
Well, but I want to address that. I mean, no, but I mean, you know what?
Your writers and to get,
You know what? If I was a braver soul, yes, I suppose I would get up on a soapbox more often and talk about it, at the risk of never working again. I just think all you can do is just try to, you know, not take the parts that are undignified and not take the. Just try to educate people as you go on the job. I mean, I don't know. It certainly is not the problem in other countries. In other countries, they cast women that are age appropriate and that are right for the part. What a concept. And here, in this country, they cast people because they're a star or because they're attractive, and then they wonder why the film doesn't work. You know? It's just very strange.
Like, I think of somebody like Brenda Blethyn in Secrets and Lies. And she looked like crap, and she was fabulous. And then her next movie, she was allowed to be pretty and younger. And we seem to not have that kind of flexibility here so much
No.
in terms of if you're a certain way, you know, I mean, like when Cameron Diaz was so, you know, plain and unattractive in being John Malkovich. And like literally I read reviews, I thought she was wonderful. I didn't even know it was her. And I'm reading these reviews saying, well, that was a problem. You know, she shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, why? You know, she's an actor. She got to be an actor and play a role.
Yeah.
Well, you know, inside the SAG Foundation here, we love to have our fabulous actors wind up by sharing. We have a lot of young people starting out and people who are not as far along in their careers as you are. And if there's any, you've given us so much, don't let me in any way think that I'm not thinking you've given us so much, but if there's any words of wisdom, experience, strength, and hope, thoughts that you would like to pass on here to the people.
I will say something that I recently spoke to MFA students at the University of Washington in Seattle, where I went to school. I was there a few weeks ago speaking to them, and some advice that I wish I had been given when I was younger, and that I wish I still took more to heart, is that as an actor, if you can find the thing about yourself that is unique and interesting and fulfilling and nurture that and not always try to figure out what is it they want. I can be that. I can do that. I can be that. I'll be whatever you want. And I'll be prettier, or I'll be thinner, or I'll have bigger breasts, or I'll be younger, or I'll be taller, or I'll be whatever. Is come in with that, whatever it is you have, and be proud of it. Because the people often in positions of authority in this town, they don't know what they want. They are desperate for someone to come in and solve their problem for them, and be that person.
And
Be
half
that-
of them haven't graduated from high school yet either. You know, you're just,
Don't be silly.
Oh, I'm sorry, just being silly.
If you really look at most of the actors that are really, really successful, they are not the perfect looking people, most of them. There's something unique and sometimes even offbeat about them. But there's something about them, most of them, that we just want to watch. We want to see them do things and find out what happens to them and listen to them speak. So if you can find out at a young age, you're very lucky, find out what that is about you that makes you magnetic, makes you interesting,
Compelling.
makes you attractive, and not try to fit into what you think Hollywood is looking for. It doesn't mean it's going to guarantee your success, but it's going to guarantee your I think it's going to guarantee that you have the best shot you're going to have, and it's certainly going to guarantee your mental health. That's what I would say.
Let's give her a big hand. You have to hug me. Hug me. I do? Yeah, that's part of the thing.